Hey, got new computers everywhere, got them halfway hooked up. I'm working on this over there, I'm working on this over here, and then things didn't work out exactly right. So I apologize for the delay. I apologize. I think 2 different times with a new computer I set up YouTube, and whenever I set up the stream, it accidentally, I guess I need to change the setting where it doesn't go live when I click stream. So anyways, long story short, we're finally on. I will have all this fixed by Sunday. I appreciate everybody hanging in with us, and I appreciate you handling all of the technical difficulties that we're going through. Again, I promise, it is amateur hour at Dodgers Daily tonight. That frustrates me more than anybody. I promise that I will have this fixed by Sunday, and we will get back to the way that we normally are. Hey, if you're over here, obviously, we have a good crowd logging in. Go ahead, if you know some of the people that were on the other link or on the other chat, go ahead and get a hold of them. Tell them to come on over, and we can have a good talk about Dodgers baseball tonight. Austin, thank you so much for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Casey. I know it was probably a bit frustrating. I know throughout the evening there's been a couple of times where computer's been acting crazy and going live with an old live stream before. And then with this one, just with the old chat, I had the chance to interact with the audience that we had on the original link that was set up. Man, we had everything set up and ready to go, and then all of a sudden things started happening to the computer. But I was able to at least interact and get a sense of what some of the questions are. I'm going to do my very best to remember some of the questions. If you have some of those questions, I would recommend putting them back into the chat. I know Sho-Time LA was talking about that. Sho-Time had a couple of really good questions about, I believe, some of the relief options. Tanner Scott, are we doing it closer by committee? I know Gregory was out in the chat talking a little bit about Gavin Lux at shortstop. I know Craig was in the chat earlier talking about Shohei Ohtani hitting 5 home runs. Jay had a couple of really good questions. One about Max Muncy's platoon splits, which I actually
hold on. When you say Jay, you don't have to preface that by really good questions. All you got to assume is Jay had questions. That's already assumed that they're fantastic, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's one of those things where, okay, we know that Jay is phenomenal and fantastic, but might as well go ahead and give the compliment anyways. But it had to do with Max Muncy's platoon splits, which actually I haven't really taken a whole lot of a deep dive into Max Muncy's platoon splits. Question about Chris Taylor possibly fitting in a little bit with third base because he's going to need to get at bats as well. There's a lot of really good, intelligent, smart questions that were already asked. So we're going to do our best.
You're on Dodgers Daily, right? I mean, we get this every single time from our audience, right?
Oh, absolutely. We do get this with the audience. And yeah, no, you guys are just the best. You guys have hung with us tonight through all of the new computer, through all of the different issues. It's Friday night in the big town here on Dodgers Daily, Dodgers Dogs. Casey and I are here tonight. We are really excited for this. So we're happy. It's an open mic night, so we're going to be interacting with you guys as best as we can. We'll try our best to interact and answer some of the questions that you had before, and then hopefully we're done with all of the technical issues for tonight, and we'll see what happens from here.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And we already have a good lobby checking in. And again, if you know somebody who normally is on here that probably went to the other link and is wondering what in the world's going on with Dodgers Daily, go ahead and tell them it's amateur hour. But even so, come on over and let's hop back in to the chat and let's have a good time talking Dodgers baseball, because it is Friday night in the big town. And if you haven't done so yet, hit that like button, leave a comment, tell all your friends about Dodgers Daily, and hit that subscribe button. Let's get to the chat. Gregory says, let's roll. And that's exactly what we're doing. Mike, hey, good evening, Mike. Thank you so much. Our all-star, rock star moderator. Mike does such a wonderful job. I can't thank him enough for everything that he does for Dodgers Daily. If you like talking Dodgers baseball, make sure to join our new Discord, and he has the link to our Discord in the chat. Hey, Austin, you got our questions? Yeah, we went over that from Denard. Sho-Time LA.
No, yeah, we will be doing our best to try to just in case you missed it at the top of the hour, Denard. I will be doing my best to try to recall all of the questions that were asked. I might not remember them specifically. So if you have any specific questions you want addressed or want to reaffirm and make sure that we address them, go ahead and put them in there. But I'm going to be doing my best at the start of the hour to kind of generate and talk about some of the topics, including closer situation, including Gavin Lux, including talking about new signing that the Dodgers made with Justin Wilson, including talking about, okay, a bunch of these veteran non-roster invites. What's a good balance of having those guys in Oklahoma City, and all of the different questions that I can remember. Any specific additional questions that you guys want asked, be sure to leave them down in the comments section down there. We will be doing our best to get to every single one. You know, Casey and I do a good job and put a real emphasis on trying to get to all, if not as many questions as we possibly can. So we will be trying to address some of your questions. I just might not remember them exactly what they were.
Yep, Justin Wilson signed to a minor league contract, so that's exciting for me. And again, this is a situation to where the Dodgers, the 40-man's full, the 26-man's full. So everybody they sign, we've said this, unless it's like a Tanner Scott or a Devin Williams, somebody who has slam dunked, they're going to go right to the front of the line, right? If it's any kind of fringe guy, we've said it several different times, they're going to have minor league options. That's exactly why Victor Gonzalez got traded. That's exactly why Yency Almonte got traded. And it's exactly why Caleb Ferguson got traded. So you're going to see if the Dodgers do make moves, it's going to be one of two things. Like I said, it's either going to be for a front-of-the-line guy like Tanner Scott or Devin Williams, or it's going to be for the minor league type deals, the guys that have minor league options. Maybe you don't have to put them on the 40-man like this last signing. So you're going to see the Dodgers create depth, but create depth in a situation to where they don't have to hog up any more spots on the 40-man, certainly not the 26.
Yeah, and Justin Wilson has been a guy who's been in the big leagues for quite some time. He's 35 years old. He has a good, long 8-9 year career where he's traveled around to a bunch of different organizations. I remember when he was pitching back for the Tigers back in 2016 type frame, left-handed relief pitcher. He's had pretty solid production throughout the course of his career. However, he's getting up there in age and he's coming off of an injury. How often have we seen Dodgers go after pitchers that have some sort of upside but are coming off of injuries? We're seeing some of these guys come back with the Daniel Hudson, with the Blake Trinan, with the JP Fireeisen, come back to the team potentially healthy in 2024 for the Dodgers. Justin Wilson, I think, is going to be fighting in spring training. He's going to be fighting through camp to try to earn a spot on this roster as a left-handed reliever. And if it's not for opening day, perhaps you have him down in Oklahoma City being one of those veteran type players fighting for a roster spot, more as a depth piece throughout the season. So Justin Wilson, I don't think it's a nothing type signing. I think it is a signing that you have to keep an eye out for. If they wanted to bring him up to the major league roster, they could move a Clayton Kershaw. They could move a Dustin May, who might already be on the 60-day IL, or a Nick Frasso, one of these guys onto the 60-day IL to open up a spot for him or open up a spot for a Daniel Hudson. But Justin Wilson is going to be one of these depth type pieces. He's going to be fighting through spring training. However, it is a loaded competition for Justin Wilson and for the Dodgers bullpen to earn a spot on this roster. Just looking at the Dodgers roster right now, they kind of have, I would say, 4 pieces in this bullpen that are pretty much locked up just about no matter what. You have Evan Phillips, you have Brusdar Graterol, you have Joe Kelly in this bullpen, and then you also have Ryan Brazier, who you just signed. I think those are the 4 that are automatic locks that are going to be there, assuming that they're healthy to start the season. And then you have a bunch of competition with a whole bunch of different names for these spots. You have a Ryan Yarbrough, who's out of minor league options. You have a Blake Trinan fighting for a spot. Alex Vesia being kind of your lefty out of the bullpen. He does have a minor league option. JP Fireeisen. You have Daniel Hudson fighting back, which there is a quote from Fabian Ardaya of The Athletic talking about how Dave Roberts might actually expect Daniel Hudson to be ready and on the opening day roster for the Dodgers, which right now on Fangraphs, he's not on the roster right now. And so guys like Justin Wilson, guys even like a Kyle Hurt or a Gavin Stone, or all of these guys are fighting for very limited roster spots right now. So I think it's still going to be an uphill battle, even for Justin Wilson, even for all of these veteran type pieces. It's going to be a competition, real competition through the course of spring training. We're just going to make it compelling, but it's also going to limit some opportunities for some very talented pitchers. Right now, Justin Wilson has a chance to go prove himself in spring training and maybe be able to have another year or two, or maybe a couple more years left in his big league career. I'm excited to see what he's able to do and see how the Dodgers are able to utilize him and the rest of this bullpen.
Yeah, I like that 89-mile-an-hour slider, that 96-mile-an-hour, that two-seam, what it looks like to me. He's able to turn that thing over, as you can see him here. So good stuff from the left side. 96 right there, and it's effortless, and he hides the ball very well. We talk about that quite a bit. Watch as I back this up. Watch him hide this ball right here. We talk about that a lot right there. See how he's hiding that ball? And he's going to keep hiding that ball. So, hey, this is the exact kind of signing that the Dodgers make all the time. It is what's called a low risk, high reward, right? I mean, you're on a minor league contract. You're not taking up any of your 40-man roster spots. It's cheap. And here's I think you kind of glazed on it just a minute ago, Austin. Here's the big part of this. I mentioned in the last show, you got to be careful with your 60-day ILs, with the guys that are coming back this year. So if you think Clayton Kershaw and Dustin May are coming back, what you don't want to do is put like River Ryan on the 40-man because of their 60-day IL stints, because when they get back, now what do you do with River Ryan? Do you see what I'm saying?
So you got to cut somebody.
Yes, right. So this is the exact perfect kind of signing. Let me flip it back to him. Justin Wilson is the exact type of signing that gives the Dodgers flexibility, because if they put him on the 40-man in place of a guy that's on the 60-day that is going to come back, well, whenever they come back, they won't have any problems DFAing Justin Wilson if they need to. They don't want to DFA. They don't want to DFA an Alec Gamboa or a Ricky Vanasco or a Gus Varlin or certainly a River Ryan, somebody like that. They would not have a problem DFAing Justin Wilson. That's exactly what this move allows them to do. It gives them that guy to do this with. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it provides a little bit more of insurance. They don't have a ton of left-handed relievers. Justin Wilson is an additional insurance type piece to add to the Alex Vesia, to add to the Ryan Yarbrough, to add to even some of the guys that you have in the minor league system with Alec Gamboa and John Rooney, two guys who are incredibly talented. But if you add them to the 40-man roster and then Clayton Kershaw and Dustin May come back, do you end up having to cut some of those guys? It presents a really unique opportunity for the Dodgers to continue to add depth. It perhaps limits some of the opportunities for Gamboa and Rooney, which I'm certainly would not want that. But Justin Wilson might still be a very good, talented big league pitcher at the end of the day, in which case the Dodgers could use as much depth on the pitching side as possible. As the old saying goes, you can never have enough pitching.
Yeah, and not only just depth, Austin, we've said it a million different times, but left-handed relief pitching depth. You can't have enough of that either. Justin Wilson, major league experience, minor league contract, DFAable. That is the Dodgers fringe players to a nutshell. They go get those guys. Wander Suero last year. They got Dylan Covey, Matt Andriese. They were thinking about bringing up a couple of different times. Austin Wynns. I mean, this is such a Dodgers move. You go and you get all the all-stars, and then your fringe guys are guys that are major league experience, minor league contracts, DFAable. This is such a Dodgers move. So I get excited anytime they bring in a veteran like this, because I get to see, like last year was Adam Kolarek. I got to talk to him. That was really, really cool. I mean,
And it could be something where Alec Gamboa and John Rooney are able to learn a lot from a Justin Wilson type who has plenty of big league experience, who can be there and kind of help continue to mentor both of these guys who are fighting and want and deserve to get opportunities at the big league level at some point. He can work through the process. He can work through all the different aspects of being a big league pitcher and help both of those guys out at the minor league level, assuming that's where he starts off, which right now it's very hard to envision what this bullpen is going to be like, especially if you want to have Trinan, Fireisen, and Daniel Hudson in this bullpen. All of a sudden, it's incredibly crowded, and there's not a lot of room for even a guy as talented as a Kyle Hurt.
You know what else this does, Austin? And this is kind of cutthroat, and I don't like the cutthroat game of things, but it's business. This also puts Alex Vesia on notice. I mean, it gives you another major league guy that quite possibly has better just raw stuff than Alex Vesia, a guy who's gotten major league outs. You're not going to have Justin Wilson, Alex Vesia, Ryan Yarbrough on the roster, 26-man roster at the same time, right? So, and there's a good chance that Alex Vesia starts in Oklahoma City. Just looking at the numbers crunch, where Ryan Yarbrough is the only left-hander that starts as far as relief goes. It starts in the bullpen for the Dodgers. So there's a good chance that Justin Wilson and Alex Vesia duel it out in Oklahoma City to be the veteran that actually gets that spot on the 26-man roster. There's a good chance that happens.
That's going to be a really compelling battle that's going to take place probably initially in spring training, and then maybe through the course of the season. It is Alex Vesia versus Justin Wilson. I think that's going to be really, really unique, really insightful to see what goes on. Kind of similar to the Kyle Hurt versus JP Fireisen or Kyle Hurt versus Blake Trinan type of battles that are going to be taking place in spring training. This is what you're going to be looking out for in spring training, is these healthy, good competitions where players are either fighting to hold on to their big league careers, or other guys are fighting to crack the door open and get into and get established into their big league careers. This is really fascinating. This is what spring training is about. Spring training games start in 6 days. And how exciting is that?
So this is like a NASCAR race, okay? Many times you watch a NASCAR race, and the leader is first place is already determined about halfway through the race, right? Where you really the excitement is like back in the pack, like third, fourth, fifth place, sixth place, and those guys are fighting for position in the cup standings and all that. So that's kind of what's going on here with the Dodgers. The starting positions are all sewed up, right? I mean, you look at left field, it's going to be T.O., center field, James, right field, you got the platoon, Margot and Hayward. First base, Freddie. Second base, Mookie. Shortstop, Gavin. Third base, Max. Catcher is Will. And then your pitchers are YoshinobuYamamoto, TylerGlasnow. Going to be Walker Buehler. And then before he comes back, it's going to be Sheehan or Stone, somebody like that. Bobby Miller and James Paxton. So your starters are set, right? The first place everywhere is set. But where it's exciting is on the periphery. Back in the pack, the guys who are, the 26th guy on the 26-man roster. That's what you need to be watching in spring training. Those are the battles that you've been talking about for a long time, Austin. The battles, like you said just a minute ago, between Kyle Hurt, JP Fireisen. Now Justin Wilson, Alec Gamboa, John Rooney, Alex Vesia. Those are going to be, now I know everybody wants to go watch Shohei Ohtani hit home runs, and that's really cool. And they want to see YoshinobuYamamoto pitch. That's really cool. All that stuff's really cool. But if you're really a hardcore, gritty baseball person, the really funnest part of the spring training is going to be watching those battles for the 24th, 25th, and 26th spots on the roster.
Yeah, this is what's going to help shape and create a person's big league career. This is really huge. This is really important. And every single aspect of your organization, you have to pay attention to the margins. So some people might say, okay, we're looking for maybe the 7th or 8th member of the bullpen. Why does that matter a whole lot? It matters a whole lot because every single detail of your organization matters, and you have to pay attention to even the smallest of details. You have to think about the big picture. Okay, what is going to be best for this team now and for the future of this team? How can we incorporate and make sure that we have enough depth through the course of the season, while also making sure some of the guys that are younger, who are going to be on this team for a longer time, get big league experience? All of these questions are going to be fought for. They're going to have to be addressed through the course of spring training, which is why spring training is worth watching. It's not just practice games. We don't watch it, kind of just watch it because it is baseball, and it's been a while since we've watched baseball. But these parts also matter and are incredibly important for these guys and their careers. So as cool as it's going to be to see Shohei Ohtani hit home runs, which he hit 5 of them in 5 pitches or so during batting practice today, as fun as it's going to see Yoshinobu Yamamoto be able to pitch in a Dodgers uniform for the first time, those guys are going to be on the big league roster, and they're going to be a bit on the big league roster for a long time. Their spots are set. Yep. What about these guys on the edges of the roster who are fighting for a spot, who might make a really big difference late in the game, who might be relied upon in real key situations where you have to get an out? These are the type of battles where you're going to figure out who Dave Roberts is going to hand the ball to. Who is that lefty that's going to be out there? Is it going to be Justin Wilson trying to reestablish and come back from Tommy John surgery? Is it going to be one of these younger guys, Alex Vesia? Is he going to come back and return to form? Is it going to be a Kyle Hurd? Is he going to emerge and be a late inning dominant pitcher? A lot of this will sort itself out, and there will be injuries that take place. Unfortunately, we're not rooting for any of that. That is a reality of pitching at such a high level with this amount of intensity, with this amount of efficiency, and with this amount of velocity. There's going to be things that sort itself out, but this spring training is incredibly important. This is the baseline of what your team is going to look like, and it's going to be fun to watch the competition continue through the course of spring training. Again, starts in 6 days.
Hey, one of the questions here, Showtime LA. Showtime just leaves unbelievable comments every single time. Hey, what do I always say about our Dodgers dailies, Austin?
Oh, it is not the biggest crowd in the world. I'm assuming that it will be at some point, but it is the best Dodgers and baseball and YouTube crowd out there.
A little flex there, huh?
Oh, yeah, just a little bit.
Hey, let's get to Showtime LA's first comment. One of my questions was, if the Dodgers trade for Tanner Scott, is he the closer, or is it still closer by committee? It is still closer by committee, but he will be part of that committee.
Yeah, no, that is a really excellent question. So right now, it seems to be the case that the guy that you're going to rely upon in most closing type situations with the way this roster is constructed is Evan Phillips. He's the guy who took a lot of the brunt of those save situations last season, and so I would anticipate him to get at least a good chunk of them. I don't anticipate him getting all of them. I think they're going to mix and match to see, okay, these are guys that we can rely upon in late inning situations. What are some different avenues that we can go in late inning situations? Is he best served kind of moving him around in the bullpen, or is he best served in a role where he can face against lineups where it's either the best hitters or the right-handed hitters? Perhaps we can find some other guys that can close out games as well. Perhaps we try a Ryan Brazier against a mostly left-handed heavy ninth inning. Perhaps we try a couple of other guys in there. If Tanner Scott is added to the situation, I don't anticipate him being exclusively the closer. We saw through the course of this past couple of seasons with Miami, he had 20 and then 12 saves with the Marlins. I would anticipate it being more of an Evan Phillips, Tanner Scott split save situations or split ninth inning duties, depending on the situation. I think if you get Tanner Scott there'd be a whole bunch of different moving pieces just based off of the matchups, based on who's healthy, who's rested. If you go out and get, per se, a Devin Williams, then it's a Devin Williams is your closer, and then you can move all the other pieces around depending on the situation. You can go and pitch Evan Phillips when the most crucial part of the lineups are. But Tanner Scott, I think he can move up and down around the bullpen.
No doubt about that. Evan Phillips, you can use him in any which way you can. He is just an absolute tremendous pitcher. So that is a great question from Sho-Time LA as we rock through the chat and we do all this together. Hey man, we had all this going on. I'm incorporating new computers, and it was starting streams, and then it was putting the webcam on instead of my streaming software. And we got all this late start, and you look up and we have this awesome chat going on in here already. Austin, hey, we can't thank you enough for coming on here to Dodgers Daily and doing this with us and making this such a wonderful experience, at least for us. So thank you so much to everybody that's out there as part of this show tonight. Chuck Huddleston, good evening. If Hayward struggles, will Pages get his shot? Not this year. Pages is coming off the labrum injury, and so it's going to be probably, I would say, July, August, before he even gets back, right? And then at that point, I think you're looking at a September call-up for nothing other than probably just experience at the major league level and kind of an audition for 2025.
Maybe it depends. I was looking through some Twitter as everybody else was, or X, whatever it's called now. And Andy Pages, I believe, was taking some swings.
Yeah.
At least I saw some videos of him taking some swings. I don't know if that means he's healthy. I don't mean if he's ready to go. I think it really depends on when Andy Pages is healthy and when he is ready to go for the start of the season. Is it going to be something where he's healthy, ready to go opening day for Oklahoma City? Is it going to be something where he's going to need a couple of weeks to get healthy? I think that's a very serious question.
Yeah.
I think the Dodgers are going to be cautious about it because they want Andy Pages to be as healthy as possible and to come back when he is healthy. So I think that is the first initial question. And then you have to ask yourself, okay, if he is healthy, is he performing to the level that we saw him last time? I would totally expect that, and I have all the confidence in the world that he is going to perform. You also don't know, with him coming off of the injury, how exactly he's going to perform and how exactly he's going to adapt. So you have to give him some patience in time there. So that's already pushing the timeline back at least a couple of months. But then you're talking about, okay, what happens if Jason Hayward or Manny Margot struggle a little bit at the start of the season, or you get to June and July, and that platoon type situation just isn't working out? Andy Pages is one of the guys that you can call up, especially if he's performing really well. He is a difference maker in the lineups that he's been a part of. He's got a lot of power. He's got a lot of good on base ability. He's got a lot of clutch in him. I talk a lot about the home run he hit on September 12th, 2021. Actually, he had two of those home runs that day, but the second home run he hit against West Michigan with the Great Lakes Loons season on the line to put them up in front, and just one of the most clutch situations I've seen out of a player. I think this translates, and I think he's going to be a real good impact hitter for the Dodgers for quite a while. It's going to be about making sure that he's healthy, seeing what type of adjustments, and the Dodgers having a willingness to release or move on from a Jason Hayward or a Manny Margot. And it's also something where, don't forget, Miguel Vargas is a outfielder now. He is a left fielder. That's where he is right now training. And I think Miguel Vargas probably would get the first opportunity to get called up, depending on how he's hitting in LA. So that makes the timeline back towards, he'll probably see some time maybe in August or September. I think there's probably going to be opportunities there depending on how everything is looking at the big league roster. And I think they want to see how he does with at least a little bit, or get a couple looks at the major league roster, because I think there are big plans ahead for Andy Pages.
Yeah, I think he's going to ETA next year. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think he will see his major league debut in 2025. But I think if there is a struggle, first of all, I think that this platoon is going to be better than people are giving it credit. in right field between Hayward and Margot, because they're only going to play against, the opposite hand, which is going to be an advantage for them, and they're only going to get good matchups. And also, I think when you look at this lineup, a pitcher is going to go, well, who do I attack? It's going to be that spot in the lineup, so they're going to get a lot of good fastballs to hit. So I think that platoon's going to be better than people think to begin with. I think it could be a 2.5-3 WAR type of, maybe a top 10, top 15 as far as right field production type platoon on the season. But having said that, if it does struggle, I assure you the Dodgers are going to give that situation so much runway. It's going to be, what I'm trying to say is, it's going to be at least August before the Dodgers just say, you know what, screw it. These two veterans aren't getting it. Let's go to a rookie. I mean, it's going to be at least August before they make their mind up on that, right? And then also, here's in my opinion, Andy Pages would be the third choice. Your first choice, I think, would probably be, hey, let's see if Miguel Vargas, let's throw him up here for a couple weeks. Let's see if he can hit. If he does, let's keep him up here, kind of like you did with James Outman in spring training. So I think, like you said, Miguel Vargas would be option number one. He would move to left field. That would move Tio to right field. And then option number two would be just throw Mookie Betts back out there, put Gavin Lux at second base, go get Willie Adames at shortstop at the trade deadline, and away we go. I think those are squarely going to be options ahead of Andy Pages. And so let's hope that he's healthy. Let's hope that he goes back to hitting the way that he does, and he gets a full season under his belt, or however much of the season that he gets, and that he makes his major league debut this year.
Yeah. And I will say, if Andy Pages comes out in Oklahoma City and for 2.5, 3 months of healthy, good baseball, puts up a 150 WRC plus like he did in Great Lakes in 2021, then it's a whole different conversation of, okay, this guy is performing well above and beyond anything we could have imagined. Maybe we give him a shot in the outfield, give him a shot at the major league level. Again, depending on how the situation at the major league level is, we still have to see Andy Pages perform a little bit healthy in Oklahoma City. But once that happens, he is on his way to the Dodgers. I believe he will come back healthy, and think he will come back with a vengeance, and he will want to prove himself to being one of those top prospects again.
Yeah, we have a question in the chat here. Who is the next James Outman in terms of just being a guy that wasn't really highly drafted, and a guy that kind of didn't get a whole lot of prospect talk. Of course, James Outman's team picked up. You're looking at there's really three guys that come to my mind right off the bat. The first guy is Ronan Kopp, 10th round out of JUCO, and I don't know how he dropped that far. I mean, he's just simply fantastic. And then from a position side player, you're looking here at Chris Newell. I always called him the left-handed version of Johnny DeLuca, because this is a guy out of the University of Virginia. Man, look how still he is. Look how his hands work. This guy has it all, man. This guy can do it all. This guy is a massive – just go back to his stolen base numbers at Virginia. I think he stole like 45 bases, something like that his last year there. This is a guy that can hit for average. This is a guy that has massive power. This is a guy that has big-time speed. This is Cody Bellinger type tools. I don't want to say he's going to be Cody Bellinger, but Cody Bellinger type tools. And he was drafted, 405th, something like that. So I think Chris Newell, and then also Damon Keith, we'll get to him here in a minute.
Yeah, no, Chris Newell is one of those guys that early in the season just absolutely tore it up for Rancho Cucamonga. Yeah, he was absolutely unreal. Now, we talked about what happens if Andy Pages puts up a 150 WRC plus in Oklahoma City. Chris Newell came out and put up a 181 WRC plus in Rancho Cucamonga. He did it. He hit for power. He was able to steal 7 bases. He did it in just under 200 plate appearances. Just absolutely unreal. He was able to draw quite a bit of walks. And then he moved up to Great Lakes. And I think for the first week or two that he was up in Great Lakes, he continued that unreal stretch where you're thinking, oh, man, they just added another great, phenomenal guy to their lineup.
I've been telling you about him for a while.
Absolutely. When Chris Newell is hot, he can hit it anywhere in the ballpark, and he can hit it out anywhere in the ballpark. He has one of those, holy cow, that's a really sweet swing, and it is powerful when he's able to connect it. Yeah, he does have a little bit of swing and miss concerns at times. He does strike out a little bit, but when he's able to hit for power, when he's able to continue to get on base with walking and putting the ball in play, Chris Newell is a dynamic type player. I'm excited to see the continued adjustments he's able to make. He dealt with some injuries towards the course of Great Lakes, or at least spent some time just sitting out for a little bit. But when he is good, when he is healthy, and when he is on the field, he is an absolute force in the lineup.
Yep.
Just definitely somebody who you might not know a whole lot about, somebody to keep an eye on that is coming up through the system.
So whenever you talk about a James Outmanish type player, what you're talking about is a guy that has upside. All these guys have issues that, hey, if they strike out too much, or if they do this too much, that can hold them back. All these guys have that in their game, right? But you're talking about guys, do they have the top end ability and talent to be a really, really good major leaguer? From the first time I laid eyes on James Outman, my very first tweet was, this guy is going to be a major leaguer, because I saw that top end talent. And that's when he had been at Tulsa for like 2 games. That's Chris Newell. Okay. So he has, when things go right, you've seen it with your own eyes. He has more talent than anybody else in the field. He is the type of guy that when you're a teammate of his and you're like 1 for your last 19, and he's late on a pitch or early on a pitch and just flicks the wrist and just throws the barrel at it and then hits about a 96-mile-an-hour seed into right center, you're just going, dude, how do you do that, man? I mean, he just makes it look easy. So, yes, he does have swing and miss, like you said, but this guy, like I said, he has the top-end tools. He has the top-end talent. He has a great work ethic. So, at this point, it's just going to be a matter of how long can he stay on top of that to create consistency? You know, the hardest part of this, I talked to James Outman about this 2 years ago, and literally we talked for about 5 minutes at Tulsa right before he went to take BP. And the first thing he said was, man, this is all about making it through the minor leagues. It's all about just minimizing your lows. How do you minimize your lows? So if Chris Newell can minimize his lows and just make the lows not quite as bad, the highs are always going to be there. Does that make sense? So from that perspective, I love what this guy can do, and he's just super talented. And then also, like James Outman, here is the ace in the hole for him, both him and the guy that we're getting ready to watch. I'm getting ready to throw it on here. These guys are elite athletes. Okay, they're great defensively. At least they have the athletic ability and the instincts to be great defensively. So they have it in the back pocket that even if they're going through one of their tough patches where they're striking out a little bit too much, they're still going to play great defense and hit home runs every now and then. Here is another James Outman-ish type player, Damon Keith. I believe Damon Keith was drafted, the 10th round, Austin? Would that be correct?
He was drafted 2021, the 18th round.
18th, okay, 18th round. Yeah, so there you go. Okay, Damon Keith last year, first of all, Austin will testify to this. I think he was the fastest player on the Loons team.
He was, I believe, maybe second fastest. Yes. Yeah, Brad Tunney, the Loons broadcast announcer, was talking about that in a game, maybe August time frame. Only one that might have been faster, maybe Jake Vogel might have been faster, or somebody like that. But Damon Keith, as far as his sprint speed, yeah, he is one of the fastest guys on the Loons team that had the Loons franchise record in stolen base total.
Yep. So what I want you to watch here, watch this loop. This is going to loop back again. Watch this base hit, Austin. Did you see that right there? That is a 116-mile-an-hour single. 116 miles an hour that came off the bat for a hit to left field for Damon Keith. Now watch this home run right here. Watch this power for him. Right there. Wham. Right there to right center. This dude has a world of power. He has a world of athletic ability. And by the way, he has a really, really, really good throwing arm. Let me show you his throwing arm right here. Watch this from center field. He was a good enough athlete to actually be playing center field here. See this throwing arm in the cold? Not unbelievable, but not bad either. So he has a good throwing arm. He has great speed and a world of power. Damon Keith, now I'm not going to sugarcoat it. He struck out a bunch last year. He had a down year. going through all the way through about July, it was a struggle for him. See, out of Cal Baptist, so the thing for him is that he's got to figure out a way to continue to tap into the power, to continue to tap into the top end of his offense while not striking out like 35% of the time, right? That's going to be the key for Damon Keith. He has a little bit of a loop in his swing, a little bit of lift to it, which is why he has some swing and miss, but it's literally going to be as simple as that because the tools are there.
Oh, the tools are absolutely there. You're talking to another guy who, when he got called up to Rancho Cucamonga, just ran away with everything, then got called up to Great Lakes, spent a little bit of time in there in 2022, spent all with Great Lakes last season. You talk about a down year, still a 95 WRC plus.
Yeah.
If he can limit some of the strikeouts just a little bit more, and if he's able to tap in a little bit more into that game home run type power that he has and able to establish a little bit more consistency, which we've seen that we see this double right here. The home run that was shown earlier was a very clutch moment. And I can't remember either game 2 or game 3 in the Midwest League East Division finals against Fort Wayne that really helped put them over the top in that series. Damon Keith, a ton of tools. He can play anywhere in the outfield. He's really fast. He's really quick. He has all the tools in the world. It's about creating and establishing consistency and about tapping more into that home run potential while limiting some of the strikeouts. So consistency is going to be key, and I'm excited to see how Damon Keith is able to continue to progress as he continues with his minor league career. Again, not saying that these guys will become James Outman, but these are guys with similar type profiles to a James Outman that we can see potentially having that trajectory if things work out well.
So right here, I want to show you one thing about hitting is that only about 5 times all year is your timing, your bat playing going to match the pitch perfectly, and everything go exactly perfect. Only 5 times a year on average for a major leaguer. So the question isn't how does a guy hit when he's perfectly on time? The question is, the good hitters are the ones that, hey, how do you actually hit when you're not on time? So watch this right here. See how he's out front and that pitch is outside? And look how far, even though he's out front of that pitch and the pitch is outside, look how hard and how far he hit that ball. I mean, that is massive, massive talent right there. So that right there tells you that he has the ability to be a good bad ball hitter and good or bad timing hitters. Not bad ball hitter. Bad timing, or at least not perfect timing. He's able to hit the ball still hard, even when his timing isn't perfect, and those guys tend to translate at the major league level. So, hey, great question, Jay. I hope we answered it right there. And with Chris Newell and Damon Keith, got to cover a couple guys that we really love covering. So thank you for that question. Anything you want before we get back to our comments, Austin?
Oh, no, I always love those questions, especially addressing some of the guys that I get to see quite a bit play, especially that I've seen play in Great Lakes. So if you have any questions, I know Casey and I, we love talking a lot about the Los Angeles Dodgers in this big league club. We also like presenting some information about some of the guys on the farm, guys in this system who not everybody knows about, because we watch these guys, we see them able to perform and love covering their stories. So if you have anybody in mind that you want to see video of, you want Casey and I to talk about it, leave it down in the comments. Also, if you haven't yet done so, be sure to like and subscribe. I don't think we've mentioned that, and it's already, 10 o'clock here, 7 o'clock Pacific, so be sure to like and subscribe. That is greatly appreciated.
We have breaking news, Austin.
Oh, yeah?
$50 super chat from the Right Field Pavilion. $50, dude. Wow. Hey, Right Field Pavilion, we cannot tell you how much we appreciate that. That is just simply incredible. Just wanted to say thank you to you both for all the Dodgers information you provide on your channel on players that we may not be as familiar with. Keep up the great work. Those are the guys we love to cover, aren't they, Austin?
Oh, that's some of the most fun that I've had on Dodgers Daily. I love doing every single part. I love covering the Dodgers, the big league club, and talking with you guys. There's a ton of really good interaction. I also like informing and bringing up guys like Chris Newell or Damon Keith, who I guarantee you there's people watching right now who have not heard of their names or don't know of how good and talented those players are. And oftentimes these guys on the minor league level, their stories get neglected or their stories get forgotten about. And what we do here in Dodgers Daily, we try to make sure that these guys' stories aren't forgotten, because it's still important what these guys are able to do, and the battle is still very much there, and they're fighting for their careers, and we want to be a part of that. So we are incredibly grateful. Thank you so much for that super chat, for everybody, but especially for you. That definitely means a lot, and we enjoy what we do here, and we are more than happy to do that. So thank you very much for that.
Dodgers signed a bunch of veteran pitchers to minor league contracts. Which one do you think has a realistic chance? I honestly think, to be honest with you, Austin, Justin Wilson, I think if he's healthy, I think it's better than a chance that he gets a substantial look to help this major league. I don't think they brought this guy in just to say, well, he's a minor league, or I think they brought this guy in with the anticipation that there is at least a good chance that he becomes a left-hander that they trust in the bullpen before the season's over. I really think that.
No, that is absolutely right. Yeah, I think right now, Justin Wilson, of the guys that they've signed to some of the non-roster invites to minor league contracts, I think he probably has the best chance of the group because of his established big league career, because he's been able to perform, and because he's a left-handed pitcher. I think Daniel Hudson, who's been in this organization for a while, also is going to have a really good shot. And then it's a kind of wait and see to see how some of these other non-roster invite pitchers are. You have guys that are in this system, but just talk about the competition that is there right now just to enter into the conversation. And they'd have to get and hold on to a 40-man roster spot. Are any of these non-roster invites going to be a better option than using a Kyle Hurt at the big league roster? I don't believe so at all. And so that's going to make it very difficult for the Dodgers to bring any of these guys up. That is the real question.
They do it all the time.
They certainly do it all the time. Yeah. And you could see some of these guys stick around through this organization, be around the development staff, and potentially get a call up later, perhaps see some time in Oklahoma City. But even then, there's going to be, if you keep around some of these guys, it's going to be very crowded, because the starting pitching rotation in Oklahoma City, assuming a lot of the starting rotation is pretty much set, there's going to be a lot of guys that are in that pitching rotation in Oklahoma City, to where that's even going to get crowded.
Yeah.
So then you talk about up and down this organization. It's very difficult. Doesn't mean that they're not going to get looks. Doesn't mean that they're not going to get opportunities to succeed. But right now, Justin Wilson has a very real shot. He's going to get a very serious look to enter into this Dodgers bullpen.
Another thing about the Miguel Vargas deal that I missed, and we should have hit this, you got Jake Geloff coming up. And I always say you just can't tell if a guy's going to be a major leaguer or not till they hit the AA level. We've seen that with guys over and over and over, right? But if there was a guy that you could just say, hey, I know he's at the single A level, but he's going to be a major leaguer, if there was ever a guy you were going to say that with, he would be that guy, right? Because he just has the hit tool and the soft hands, and he's just a great player. So I honestly, going back to the Miguel Vargas talk from Wednesday night, I think part of the Miguel Vargas thing is, like we talked about earlier, if there's an outfield injury, he's first one up. They want to keep Mookie Betts in second base, but B, I think they've identified their third baseman of the future, and that allows them to move Miguel Vargas to the outfield. I really do.
Yeah, no, if they've identified, if they say, hey, Jake Geloff, you are the guy, we believe in you as the third base in the future, it's not going to be something where Miguel Vargas is going to play a lot of third base, assuming that Max Muncy is going to be healthy. He's going to be the third baseman of this club for the Dodgers. And so you'd have to hope for Miguel Vargas, if you were Miguel Vargas and you were still at third base, for some type of injury, which you never hope for. And so then it talks about, okay, what happens after 2 or 3 seasons when Max Muncy, if they exercise the club option or if they don't, when he is off the Dodgers club, what do you do with third base then? Do you wait for Miguel Vargas until then, or do you have a guy who more fits with that timeline? And the guy right now who better fits with that timeline is a Jake Geloff, and he's high round draft pick for the Dodgers from this past season. Still hasn't played a ton, but from what we've had to see, he has performed really well. I'm curious to see how he performs this year. I'm assuming he's going to spend some time in Great Lakes, so I'm sure I'll be pretty excited to see him and Tyrone Lorenzo and everybody else. Tyrone Lorenzo, which if you haven't checked out yet, Casey just posted and premiered last night an interview with Tyrone Lorenzo. Thank you again to Trinidad for being able to translate that. Oh, yeah, no, he's absolutely great. Go check out him, Tim Rogers, Dodgers 2080, and all the work that they do. No, with these guys coming up in Great Lakes and performing really well, I'm excited to see what they are able to do and just the power that Jake Geloff has and provides. It's going to be exciting to see him develop and see how the Dodgers handle some of the incredibly young but talented next group of prospects that come up. There's always a flow of these good, talented guys because this is the best scouting and development staff out there.
I would agree with that. And I'm getting to Jake Geloff and getting back to that conversation because Sho-Time LA says, I really think this time next year, Dodgers farm system will be second to only Baltimore and Chicago. You got a lot of wonderful young players coming up. Talking about Chris Newell, we talked about him earlier, and Jake Geloff, Joe Vitrano, all the catchers. So, yeah, and you also have all the pitchers with Peyton Martin and all the guys that you still have in your system that are still going to be considered prospects next year. So yeah, I think that's a pretty accurate statement there from Sho-Time. Gregory, here's a question for both of you. What is your main thing you hate about the Dodgers going forward, and would you change if you could? I would change it the way they incorporate their prospects to the major league level. First of all, what they did with Gavin Lux, making him learn a new position at the major league level. What they did to Miguel Vargas, making him learn a new position at the major league level. What they did to Mitch White, sending him back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. What they did to Ryan Pepio and Michael Grove the first time that they came up the major leagues, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. That's just not a good system. I don't think it's a coincidence that the only World Series they've won was in 2020, Austin. And guess what didn't take place in 2020?
What didn't take place?
The minor league season. So guess what the Dodgers did not have the option to be able to do? They didn't have the option to be able to bring guys up and down and up and down and up and down. They had to set their roster. They had to stick with their roster. And because of that, everybody caught a groove. They were in a groove once the playoffs started, and they just rode that wave and won. So definitely the one thing that I do not like the way that the Dodgers do business, which, hey, I like about 99.9% of everything they do. So I don't mean this to throw shade, but you asked me a question, and I'm answering it, is how they incorporate their rookies.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. I think there's a lot of missed opportunity with talent for the search for more of the big league baseline type player. Dodgers often rely on a lot of veteran presences, which when you have a big league club that's competing for a World Series where you want to have an established level of consistency at the big league club, perhaps that's the best option to move forward. And certainly the Dodgers seem to prefer more of the veteran present type players. There's a lot of talent that comes up within this organization that they could rely upon, that they could have more guys like a James Outman or a Bobby Miller that are on this team that are good, solid rock stars.
Yep.
Not saying that all of these guys will be exactly to the level of talent that those guys are, because they're both phenomenal all-star level type players, but there's a ton of talent within the system that they could incorporate a little bit more. And so I would rely a little bit more on more of the younger type talent that you have in this system. I've seen these guys. I know just how good and talented they are. And I'm excited to see them be able, some of the guys that have moved on from this organization, be able to participate and be a part of established big league clubs. I know Dodgers fans probably won't always want to see that, but it's something that I'm going to be rooting for, excited for. Dodgers have a really good big league club. They're going to be competing, but they're also going to be missing out on some really good, talented players like a Johnny DeLuca, who's going to be hitting home runs in Tropicana Field, or like a Nick Nastrini and Jordan Leisure, who are going to be pitching for the White Sox coming up. this upcoming season or in 2025 or any of the other guys that have moved on from this organization. There's a lot of really good, talented players that the Dodgers could have incorporated. They didn't always have space to, but they seem to be a little bit more hesitant than other organizations at calling guys up.
Yeah, that would be the one thing that I would change. And this is directed at you, Austin. How concerned are you about Muncie's platoon splits? Do you think we see CT3 playing a lot of third base versus left-handed pitchers?
Yes, no, that was a really good, really solid question. And one of the areas that I hadn't done a ton of research. So kind of during the show a little bit, I've been doing a little bit. And yeah, no, there absolutely is. If you look at last year, the platoon splits, you're just talking about OPS, lefty versus righty with Max Muncy versus right-handed pitching at an 881 OPS, but versus left-handed pitching, that went down to a 641. Now, could that just be a little bit of a 1 year type total? It has been a little bit of a trend throughout his career. Sometimes there's different reverse type splits. Sometimes it gets a little bit weird, but it might be that you have a little bit more of a lefty versus righty split. I think that's when you could potentially incorporate a Chris Taylor who doesn't have has some, but doesn't have a ton of experience at third base, at least not that I'm aware of. Could be completely wrong. He does have some experience at third base, just it hasn't been the most primary position that he's taken advantage of. I think you could see to try to find at bats for Chris Taylor, who is going to be that super utility, give guys days off. If there's going to be a dominant lefty and Max Muncy needs a day off, I think you could take advantage of that and put Chris Taylor into third base. You can be creative with the guys that you have on the bench. So I'm a little concerned with that. I think the Dodgers obviously have a lot of hitters who are left-handed, so they're a little bit more left-handed heavy. They did add Teoscar Hernandez, who is going to help balance out this lineup a little bit. I still trust Max Muncy, but I think you can incorporate Chris Taylor a little bit more often into third base this upcoming season to offset some of the platoon splits that Max Muncy has, and find a way to get Chris Taylor at bats for the Dodgers, which he's still going to need a couple hundred at bats, 300, 350, 400 at bats for Chris Taylor.
Yep, no doubt. And we have another comment here about the Dodgers definitely needing a closer from Laker Station Nuke. I saw a recent pod which showed the ERAs for our top 8 or so potential bullpen pitchers, not modified for having good parts of a season. After seeing that, it's very clear we need a closer. Let me throw these numbers at you. Ninth inning stats for Evan Phillips. 2.15 ERA, batting average against of 176, and that's in 37.2 innings. And when you look at strikeouts, he has about a 4-to-1 strikeout ratio. Blake Trinan in the ninth inning of games, which if he's healthy, he is very, very, very good. Let me get back to my position where I was at. Oh, I just lost it here. Blake Trinan, though, in the ninth inning of games, okay, he has a 2.00 ERA and a batting average against of 2.22. So you have guys that have proven. Joe Kelly's also another guy that has proven that he's good in the eighth and ninth innings. And then also Ryan Brazier. Let me get to Ryan Brazier's numbers here in just a second. Ryan Brazier, right here, Austin. Let's look at his splits. And talk about Evan Phillips and his possibilities as far as the ninth inning game. Well, I get Ryan Brazier's splits up here.
Yeah, I think this is a really fascinating conversation right now because you're talking about late inning games. Do you go out and know there's been a lot of rumors? There still seems to be rumors about a Kenley Jansen with which Casey and I have already talked about that. We're not really for that. I'm not for getting a closer just so you can say that you have a closer that you give the ball to if he's not going to perform and pitch well. I think it's going to be really fascinating. Evan Phillips, I think he is totally capable of pitching the ninth inning, of closing out games, and I think he would do a really good, really solid job. Is that the best way of having him be in the most effective parts of the lineup? Do you want to prioritize him when it really counts in the lineup? I think Dodgers fans and the Dodgers would probably prefer, hey, if the best hitters are hitting in the 8th inning as opposed to the 9th inning, we'd rather have him in those type of situations. I think they will still pitch him in those types of situations. And I think early in the season, I think they're going to test out a lot of different arms. I think they're going to test out a Blake Trinan if he is healthy in the 9th inning. And I think they're going to see how a Ryan Brazier does late in games, or a Daniel Hudson if he comes back. I think there's going to be a lot of testing to see how they are at closing games early in the season. Is it going to be a little bit of a roller coaster? You do have time early in the season to test out all of these different arms, all of these different options before you push the chips all in and go out and get an established closer, or go out and get a Tanner Scott, who I've been pushing for more of the lefty splits versus left-handed hitters. But before you go out and do that, you have an opportunity to see how these guys are, how they are pitching, how healthy they are, before you make an initial decision to go out and get a closer. So I'm not too terribly concerned right now. They have a lot of really good, really talented arms. You haven't even mentioned about some of the guys in the system, Kyle Hurt, that you could potentially call up. There's a lot of really good, talented arms. I think it's going to be okay, let's see what kind of situations we can put some of these guys in and how they perform.
So here would be your argument against that. I'm not saying that going and getting Devin Williams or Tanner Scott would be a bad idea, but here definitely would be the argument against that. In 20 games, Ryan Brazier in the 7th inning of games has a batting average against of 154 and gave up 0 earned runs. That's again in the 7th inning in 20 different games. Joe Kelly in the 8th inning, 16 different games, he gave up 0 earned runs, had a 125 average against. Evan Phillips in the 9th inning of games. You look at his stats in 42 games, 37.2 innings, average against of just 176, gave up just 9 runs. So if you go Ryan Brazier 7th inning, Joe Kelly 8th inning, Evan Phillips 9th inning, that's not just good as far as how they've been in the past. That's absolutely 100% completely, totally, entirely elite. That setup right there. 1, 2, 3. Brazier 7th. You have Kelly 8th. You have Phillips 9th, and then that also gives you guys like Blake Trinan on the periphery. It gives you guys like Alex Vesia, a Fireisen, a Kyle Hurt. That's before you even get into those guys. So right now, the Dodgers have the ability, when everybody's available, to have a 7th, 8th, and 9th inning relief pitcher that has elite results in that role.
Yeah, and that's assuming that they stay put. Now, obviously, Dodgers would be a little bit more comfortable. Like, hey, let's add an elite closer type level pitcher, another really good, really solid relief pitcher. It's about cost. It's about trying to see, okay, where are you at right now? We don't know how healthy this bullpen is right now, or how ready these guys are going to be coming back from injuries. So there's still a lot of question marks, but a lot of good upside right now before the Dodgers have to go all in. You don't want to get rid of a bunch of different trade pieces right now for a closing pitcher. Then all of a sudden, okay, we figured out Gavin Lux isn't the answer at shortstop, so we have to give up even more for a Willy Adames. Oh, there's more injuries to the starting rotation, which starting pitchers are incredibly expensive. You don't want to utilize all of your trade pieces, which they do have a lot of trade pieces. So you could make the argument, okay, they have a lot of trade pieces. You could do both right now. You don't want to push all of your chips in right now before you have a sense of where this roster is and when this roster has as much talent as it does right now and the amount of upside it has.
All right, so we have a lot of great comments. So that would be my argument for just sitting tight right now with what you have. And like you said, keep your chips in your pocket to where if you might need them to go get a shortstop or something like that later on, as you mentioned, that would be the reason for that. So we had a question. What do you think about the 5 home runs from Shohei Ohtani? Really cool, really cool. I'll say this, I don't mean to be Debbie Downer or anything like that. I actually went to Texas back, probably 20 years ago or so, when it was Harold Baines night. And Harold Baines was not by any stretch of the imagination a power hitter. He was just kind of one of those base hit, bat to ball skill type of guys. I watched him take batting practice, and it was Harold Baines night, and he hit like 12 home runs in a row. All of these major leaguers, when they want to put on a show, they all can hit however many home runs they want in batting practice off of a guy that's feeding them home runs that they want, that balls that they can hit home runs too. But having said that, some of those videos of Ohtani are really cool, aren't they?
Yeah, no, they are really cool. Yeah, no, that's a really good point. Something to keep in mind. It is just batting practice type setting, but even still, super excited to see whatever Shohei Ohtani is able to do now that he's in Dodger blue.
Jay says, what do you think is the right balance of veterans on minor league deals in OKC is before it starts to impact development opportunities? Have to have depth, but also block some guys. I'm not big on, hey, we need 70% of a... I'm big on each situation. Weigh the opportunity cost for every single situation. So when you're looking at Justin Wilson, is he worth Kyle Hurt not getting innings? Is he worth it? Not necessarily. So I wouldn't want the Dodgers to say, well, we don't want to use Kyle Hurt because then our percentage is going to go too high for rookies, and we don't want that. I want the Dodgers to evaluate each different scenario. Is Kyle Hurt better than Justin Wilson? Right? Mm-hmm. It was Bobby Miller better than whoever the other vet. Was he better than Noah Syndergaard last year? Was Ryan Pepio better than Lance Lynn? Doesn't matter the percentages. Doesn't matter the balance. Was James Outman better than anybody they could have put in center field? Would Johnny DeLuca have been better than Trace Thompson? Yes. So, and a lot of those scenarios, you play a veteran because you want a certain percentage of your roster to be veteran, and you get worried if you have too many rookies. Instead of just taking it position by position, situation by situation, and actually putting the best player on the field.
Yeah, no, I think that is correct. And even when you go not just to the major league side, but let's talk about also Oklahoma City, because there's guys that are on the AAA roster of each one of these organizations that are there as minor league depth options. So the guys that get non-roster invites to spring training, not all of these guys. In fact, there's a large portion of these guys who won't make the big league club. Some of these guys might transition and stay within the organization, but are on the AAA club, so Oklahoma City. So you talk about having it be situation by situation. I think that's when you're going to have to talk about, okay, how many of these guys in Oklahoma City do we need to keep as depth and make sure that we are incorporating some of the young guys? Okay, what about guys that are coming up from Tulsa, guys like a Braden Fisher who need some innings in Oklahoma City? How many veterans do we need to keep on Oklahoma City to make sure that we're still providing opportunities for some of the guys in Tulsa?
That bleeds down to the minor leagues. Great point, Austin.
Yes, because also you're having another wave of Great Lakes Loons bullpen pieces that need to be coming up to Tulsa. So opportunities for Braden Fisher, opportunities for Antonio Knowles, or all of these young established guys. I think you need to have maybe
Jake
2,
Pilarski.
3, or 4 guys that you have. I don't even know if you need a ton of those guys, maybe 2 or 3 of those non-roster invite pitchers in Oklahoma City that are kind of just there as an emergency type situation where you have them within the organization. They're fighting for their careers. I think if you have those guys and surround them that are more of the veteran leadership type roles, and then surround them with some of the other guys. But then again, it's also situationally based on how the Dodgers decide to construct the big league roster and how many of these young prospects are going to be down in Oklahoma City. Because if you have your entire Tulsa of 2023 star-studded rotation in Oklahoma City next year, when a lot of these guys should be on the big league roster, then that's limiting even more of the opportunities. So it has very serious implications, not just at the major league side, but at the minor league side as well. And I think you can have maybe a couple of them. A lot of these guys will just move on if they don't make the big league club. They will keep a couple of these guys around, but there's also the other aspect of Major League Baseball continuing to enforce different size of the number of players that you can keep in your organization at the minor league side. I believe that shrunk even more than what it has. And so that's going to limit opportunities. I hope a lot of these guys that are super talented in this system aren't affected by that. But it is something to very serious keep in mind. So I wouldn't keep too many of these guys that are on the non-roster invites unless you truly believe that they can make an impact, not just a couple of innings in emergency, but really make an impact on the big league club. Otherwise, I would much rather give those innings to the development of the younger guys in this system.
I'll put it you this way. The bar is, if there's a tie, it needs to always go to the prospect. And the reason is because you're going to have them next year and the year after that. So if you go get a veteran on a 1-year contract and they give you just decent performance and then you don't win anything, then you don't have them next year, and then you also don't have the prospect ready to pitch that next year either. So you've lost. So if there's any kind of closeness to it, in my opinion, that always needs to go to the prospect, because that's the sustainability part of developing your talent in the system. Scott Strong, Justin Wilson, one of the only 2 players to ever go to my high school that made the major leagues, repping the 559. Matt Holliday, Josh Fields, and Tyler Anderson, quite a few of them from Stillwater, I can honestly say I'm very proud of, have made the major leagues. But that is very, very cool. Justin Wilson from the same high school as Scott Strong. And good evening, Scott. Jason Soretti, hey, we're so glad that we gave you a reason to have your earbuds in, listening to Dodgers Dawgs as part of the Dodgers Daily Network on Friday night in the big town. And if you haven't done so, hit that like button, leave a comment, tell all your friends about Dodgers Daily. If you haven't done it, become a subscriber. Austin, what do we always say about our audience?
It is not the biggest, but it is the best crowd out there.
100%. That is absolutely a fact. Yang Yi, Dodgers lineup has 4 or 5 hitters, potentially hit 30-plus home runs. That was the topic of my hot take on Monday, is how good this offense potentially could be. Also, don't rule out Hudson, Daniel Hudson, if he is healthy. Hopefully he gets over the leg issues. Mike, great point on Yamamoto. Going to find out if the adjustments he's made are on track or needs tweaking after live batting practice. No doubt about that. Yeah, Tommy, wow, got a commercial. I have turned on the ads and the it's called monetization on YouTube. So we can make $1 or $2 at this as we go along, so we can buy gas and stuff like that. And so, yeah, you might get a commercial every now and then. I put it on the balanced setting, so hopefully it's not too restrictive there. Laker Station Noog says D-Mac and a lot of Dodgers like Evan, Atlanta, and a lot of Dodgers like Evan as a fireman more than a closer. I like Evan Phillips as a fireman as well, but I also like having the ability to still have all of your trade chips available if Gavin Lux doesn't handle shortstop. I think you nailed that, Austin. I don't think, nobody has seen Gavin Lux play shortstop consistently at the major league level until you know for a fact that Gavin Lux is the starting shortstop for the Dodgers in 2024 to win a World Series. Until you know that for a fact, you got to hold on to your trade pieces, because you might have to go get Willy Adames.
Yeah, and best case scenario, the Dodgers use their trade pieces to go after relief pitching, because all of their all of their other needs are met. So I think that is the best case scenario for the Dodgers, is they go after relief pitching at the deadline as necessary, or maybe they don't really need a whole lot of relief pitching because the pitching that they have is just already phenomenal.
Third best bullpen in the league last year, says Mike. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it would already was a really good, really solid unit that you're returning most of those pieces. You're adding some guys who had recovered from a lot of injury, who have a lot of upside, a lot of potential, and you have another young wave of prospects that are coming up. This bullpen has a lot of it has some question marks, but it also has a lot of potential and a lot of upside, which is a lot of what this Dodgers team is, a lot of upside on this team.
I agree we have a question about Barnes, and I agree with Roy. Austin Barnes is not going anywhere. He is going to be on the roster all year. It does not matter how he performs. I do think Hunter Fiducia is going to ETA this year, but Austin Barnes is going to be the backup catcher for this organization this year, especially, like Roy says, as long as Clayton Kershaw is on the roster normally. Hey, this is exactly why So you're good enough relief pitching right now to where you can hold on to what you have and then allow all the other aspects of your team that might need tweaking or improving. If you need to use your trade prospects for those aspects, you're good at. So right now, you don't need to fix your bullpen so bad that you can't fix your shortstop position later on, or right field, or whatever it may be. So hold on to your trade chips until you see exactly what's going to happen. And then, like you said, if Gavin Lux does handle it, if right field's pretty good and you still have all your trade chips, then at the trade deadline, then you can go get a closer at that point and address it from that perspective.
Normally, or if something terrible happens, if there's some type of injury, like what happens if Will Smith goes down with an injury, then Austin Barnes is the starting catcher of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Then you would want your trade chips to go after and get some type of catcher, or do you rely on a Hunter Fiducia? So you have to keep all of this in mind before going out and going all in for a closer type pitching. I get it. I would totally understand. Devin Williams is phenomenal and one of the best, most consistent relief pitchers in the game, if not the most consistent. You don't have to address that right now. It is okay to wait and see where things are, especially with how much talent this club has. I believe they're already going to go to the playoffs, even if the roster stays exactly the same as it is right now.
Yeah, Laker Station Nudes, we're actually on the exact same page here. I'm not saying they're going to roll into the playoffs with this bullpen. They could get a closer by then. I'm just saying they need to keep their cards close to them right now, because I think they have other more pressing chances of things failing before it would be the bullpen to save the trade pieces for. Hopefully everything again works out. Then at the trade deadline or before that even, you can go get a closer at that point, and you don't roll in, or you do roll into the playoffs with a closer. I am in agreement with Mike. I can tell you, I can't tell you for 100% fact, but I can tell you for 99.99999% fact that even if Clayton Kershaw didn't come back, Austin Barnes was going to be on this roster, and he is going to be on the Dodgers roster until his contract expires. And then the Dodgers just won't re-sign him, and that way you don't have to cut him. You don't have to do any of that. So Austin Barnes is here to stay. We might as well support him. We might as well get behind him and have at it. Yeah, Norm Lee, that $50 super chat was amazing. That's worth 1.5 Dodgers dogs at Dodger Stadium. That is hilarious. Nice catch, right-hand pavilion. For that $50, right field can ask all of the questions, says Norm. No doubt about it. Hey, thank you so much. DJ Jesse, good evening, everyone. Thank goodness it is Friday. Roy says, Roy's not big on Alex Vesia. He thinks that Alex Vesia is a guy that needs to go. I think Justin Wilson, this signing is ringing the bell for Alex Vesia, because I think him and Justin Wilson are going to be in direct competition with each other.
Yeah, they're going to be in direct competition, and Alex Vesia has a minor league option, which puts him perhaps at a little bit of a disadvantage, because the Dodgers can have it in the back of the mind, hey, if we want to have Justin Wilson on this club within this organization, we can take the easy route and send Alex Vesia down to the minor leagues with the minor league option that he has left, while also keeping Justin Wilson within this organization. That could very well be a decision the Dodgers make. This is going to be a very important battle for Alex Vesia, and he's going to have to prove himself in camp.
No doubt about that. Laker Station Nuke says, adios, Vesia. Do you think, Austin, there's ever a situation when we talk about competing, we're talking about they're not going to have both Justin Wilson and Alex Vesia on the 26-man roster together unless just all hell breaks loose from an injury perspective, right? But is there ever a situation, because Alex Vesia has options, that's why he's still with the Dodgers, is because they can send him to the minors. Having said that, they still have to hold a 40-man roster spot for him. Do you see any scenario to where the Dodgers just cut bait with Alex Vesia, even though he has options this year, because they want that 40-man roster spot back? Any chance that happens?
Not right now. I think they would send him down to the minor leagues first. That's because you do have a little bit of flexibility. You have not added every single one of the guys who can be put on the 60-day IL to the 60-day IL. So far, it has been Tony Gonsolin and Dustin May as the only options. you can put a Nick Frasso or perhaps even a Clayton Kershaw on the 60-day injured list. I don't think you have to make the decision to cut an Alex Vesia to create room for the 40-man roster. I think there has to be a lot of things that have to happen. I think he'd be called down to the minor leagues first, and he'd have to really, really struggle before they make that an option. And everybody else on the 40-man roster has to perform.
But if Justin Wilson kills it, that makes Alex Vesia pretty much null and void for this organization. So at that point, why use a 40-man spot if you know Justin Wilson clearly is always going to take the spot above Alex Vesia? What point does Alex Vesia being on the 40-man have at that point?
What happens if Justin Wilson gets hurt?
Alec Gamboa, John Rooney, Tanner Scott.
Perhaps you could, but then you want to keep as many options open as possible. That's part of the reason why they're going to get Justin Wilson, is that's opening up a lot of different options. And now with Alex Vesia, you can have a little bit one of those options. There's no reason right now, especially when you have possibilities for 40-man roster spots open, to cut him unless there's no spots available for him and you have to cut somebody and you see no role for him in the future. That's when you cut him. But until you have to do that, as long as he has a minor league option, go ahead and keep him on the roster.
This is exactly the conversation that goes on every single day in the war room. And guys like me bring up possibilities like this, and guys like Austin always come up with just tremendous responses, rebuttals, and it's just a tremendous back and forth. And at the end of the day, you guys get together and you make a decision, and you do what makes the most amount of sense at that time. So yeah, that's a fascinating conversation. I love this. I love the.
Oh yeah, this is a lot of fun. There's a lot of really good points, and you have to look at it from a lot of different perspectives.
Yeah.
There could be a little bit more. We could put a little bit more theatrics in it. We could be yelling and screaming at each other just like they do on TV and talking about this. But no, we have it a little bit more of a calm perspective. But these are the very types of arguments that they're having and conversations that they're having, because they want what we want, and we want a World Series, and that's what they're fighting for.
And they want to cover every base. That's for sure. Hey, how about this, Austin? Mike Krawick. Hey, Casey and Austin from Thailand. Wow. You're over-under on, by the way, the Dodgers had a player in their system that lived in Thailand for a while. He's actually coaching with Oregon State now, and his name is Kyle Fromke. Do you remember Kyle, Austin? He never made it to Great Lakes. Yeah.
He never made it to Great Lakes, but I remember him a little bit,
Yeah. So he actually lived in Thailand, I think, in his junior high years. So awesome. Hey, Michael, thank you so much for joining from Thailand. You're over-under on Kyle Hurt making the roster before the All-Star break. He is going to be on the roster probably most of the time before the All-Star break, and that is because Walker Buehler is not starting the season on the 26-man roster.
Yeah, I think we will see Kyle Hurt at some point. Now, whether he makes it on the opening day roster, that's going to be a real question. That's going to be really tough. But it's very unlikely that there's going to be no injuries that happen or no movement on the pitching side that comes up through the course of the first half of the season all the way up to the All-Star break. And with how talented Kyle Hurt is, I think there's a very, very high probability that assuming that Kyle Hurt is healthy, which there's no indications that he won't be, although things do happen through the course of the season, he will be on the big league roster at some point and get a very serious look. You're going to see a lot of Kyle Hurt during this upcoming season. I think he's going to absolutely knock it out of the park, and I think he's going to create some very good but difficult conversations for the Dodgers to have, because if they have to call him up, that means they have one less room for somebody else. And that's going to lead to some very tough conversations. But Kyle Hurt is just absolutely incredible. And then one other thing from Thailand, know a lot of people out there in northern Thailand, so I want to give a shout out to them. Definitely Thailand has a very important place in my heart. So very cool to see that we're reaching out to the ends of the world.
Yeah, I kind of shorted Harold Baines there. He averaged 17 home runs a year. Of course, he played like 715 years, so I kind of shorted him there on my narrative there as far as him not being a home run hitter. But he did also play a little bit in the in the home run era too. But I think I shorted. If Harold Baines is watching, if you're out there, Harold, and you're watching, you probably remember that Harold Baines day at Texas. Whenever you hit 10 home runs in a row during batting practice, it was like August, early 90s, something like that. You probably remember that, number one. And number two, I apologize that I think I did cut him just a little bit short. He's a little bit better power hitter than what I remember. Sometimes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just about to mention, this kind of strange Thailand that has a very important place for me.
Yeah.
My dad's done some filming work with Harold Baines before, back at down in Maryland on some golf courses before. Kind of weird how all of this that has come up kind of in kind of my past has been brought up into this live stream. Kind of cool.
Yeah, it's interesting. When you're a kid, you have perceptions of players, and then that's just what you think of them forever. And then it's almost sometimes disappointing to go back and look at the stats because you're like, oh, that didn't actually happen. It's like I wanted to just keep my memories of the guy, right? Okay, so, hey, we're just about to the end of this. We got a little bit of a late start, so we're going to read a couple more and get out of here. Hey, Tommy says, I saw the commercial as a good sign of growth. No doubt about it. We've definitely had some growth over the offseason, and we thank everybody. Daniel Ashford, thank you so much for your wonderful comment. Always great information. Peace out. Thank you so much for joining. And then also Yang Glasnow already throwing 98 to 99 in batting practice. Barring injury, he thinks that Glasnow will pitch the first game in Korea. Necron, hardly $50 will get you one bathroom pass at Dodgers Stadium. Is anyone else having problems with the stream when a commercial plays? I'd be interested to see how that goes. I don't know what that would be. I could look into it. And then Larry Partridge said, I've always liked watching Dodgers prospects at the end of spring training games, but didn't know anything about them. Thanks to you guys, now I do. I'm looking forward to the spring training games coming up here in 6 days? Is that what you said, Austin?
6 days away from actual baseball games happening.
Dave Parker played like 607,000 years in the major leagues. That dude could absolutely hit. Final thoughts, Austin, before we get out of here on Friday night in the big town.
Yeah, no, obviously we had a little bit of technical issues, kind of get this show off and running, and that has to do with, there's a new computer and stuff. All of these different stuff. We're trying to upgrade. We're having a lot of fun interacting with you guys, trying to grow this channel. And it is because of you guys that we have had the opportunity to grow this channel. We're incredibly grateful, incredibly appreciative of you guys and everything that you've done to support this channel. We've got more stuff coming out, more really cool content coming. We've been talking about different plans about, what's going to happen during the course of the regular season as far as plans for this programming. We're thinking ahead, trying to come up with new innovative ways to create as much and as best content for you guys, talking about the Dodgers, talking about this system, and making sure that you guys are as up to date on this system and with the Los Angeles Dodgers as possible. We're living in a great era of Dodgers baseball, or what's supposed to be the start of an even better era of Dodgers baseball. It's really exciting. Every single aspect of this organization we're passionate about, we absolutely love. We appreciate all the support that you guys continue to provide. You guys are as much part of this as we are, and it's just an absolute blessing and a privilege to be able to do this consistently.
Austin, want to say this out loud in front of a great crowd. I appreciate you. You're a rock star young man. You do just a wonderful job. Sometimes I can be a load to handle, if you will, and you always do it with grace, and you always do it with just such incredible intelligence, and it's always just simply fantastic and fascinating conversation. So thank you so much for another just wonderful show. Can't wait for the shows that we got coming up. And another great part of the lives, too, I wanted to mention this, is we love covering the prospects, but sometimes like we cover so many, it can get overwhelming, especially if you don't know any of the guys that we're covering. The cool part of the live shows is that it's a little bit more targeted to what you actually want, because you're asking us, hey, I'm curious about this guy. Can we see a video on him? So please continue with that, because that targets it a little bit better to where it's not overwhelming, to where you're just going, oh my God, I just saw 15. I can't remember any of it because does that make sense to you? So, hey, please, come into these shows, let us know which prospects you want to know about. If it's only one, that's great. If that's all you can handle for that night or whatever. So I do love the fact that the live shows allow us to target which prospects we're covering and make it a little bit more impactful for the fans from that perspective. Would you agree, Austin?
Oh, yeah. No, I would totally agree. That allows us to be able to figure out, okay, maybe you have an idea or haven't seen some video about this one prospect that you've heard of, or want to hear our thoughts on individual prospects. It's a little bit more targeted to you guys, what you're able to want. You're able to ask questions, not just about the prospects, but about the Dodgers as well. It's really interactive. It's a really fun format for us to be able to do. I know there can be some issues, some gremlins that pop up from time to time, but the interactive nature is something that we absolutely love, and we really appreciate you guys being a part of this show. And so, yeah, no, if there's any one of these prospects that you want coverage of, any one of these guys where you're like, maybe I haven't heard of this guy, or if it's something where you don't even have names, you're like, okay, as was mentioned, who are some potential guys
who is a type of player in the system?
Who's a potential James Outman type of player? We were able to come up with a couple of guys. Good job to Casey coming up both of those names on the fly
and
pulling
video
out some video of them. Yeah, no, we can provide video. So we're happy to oblige with that and be able to bring that information for you guys, because that's some of the most fun stuff that we actually do on here, is talking about that.
Young Yi looked on his screen and he's like, there's only one like on this whole freaking video, right? And so then he refreshed his screen. Now it's like 30. So Young was like, dude, hit the like button, right? He saw one like the whole time. That is absolutely hilarious, Young. Hey, I think we are going to leave you with that. It has been another absolutely wonderful show on Friday night in the big town. And we want to thank everybody again for tuning in. And until next time, which will be Sunday night, go Dodgers.